Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Ockow-Smith. Welcome to my latest SOS parenting video. So today I want to talk about gentle parenting and just really a quick explanation of what it is. I think if I could sum it up in just a few words, it's sort of the most easiest way for anybody to understand. It's just simply treating our children in the way that we would like to be treated ourselves as adults, but also if we think back to when we were children, what would we like from our parents and our carers? So if we were struggling with something which perhaps came across in our behavior, how would we like them to treat us? And it applies to any sort of behavior, any topic. So whether we're talking about sleep, behavior, eating, anything at all, it's just really treating our kids with respect, understanding that respect is earned from them, not demanded, and just being kind, really. So that's it in short. In a sort of a longer explanation, I think the easiest thing to do is to talk about parenting styles. So we have three main parenting styles. If you look at the psychological research by a lady called Diana Baumrind, so she talks about authoritarian parenting, permissive parenting, and authoritative parenting. Now, I think a lot of people get really confused and think that gentle parenting is very permissive. So they think it's, hippie woo parenting, that there's no discipline, that kids run riot and have full control. And there's no discipline, which actually couldn't be further from the truth. So authoritarian discipline or parenting is kind of really, I would say, old-fashioned Victorian parenting. The sort of people that would say, "Do as I say, not do as I do." So these people very much demand respect from their children, but show little respect back. They tend to have really inaccurate expectations of their child's behaviour. So they tend to expect them to be able to do things that they're just not capable of. So these are the people who would expect a 2-year-old to sit at the table in a nice restaurant and keep very still and use their cutlery and their elbows off the table and not get up and not make any noise. Anyone with a toddler just knows that that's not possible. So they expect too much. They think that children are little adults and think and behave like them. They think they can always behave better. Um, Often authoritarian is presumed as having low levels of connection and nurturance, but I would say there are a lot of parents who parent in an authoritarian manner who are very caring and very kind and very nurturing, but they do it against their instincts because they think being harsh or authoritarian, particularly with discipline, is somehow better for their children. So I think it's important we don't think these people are horrible. Very often they're following advice that goes against their instincts. So there's a huge amount of control from the respect of the parent. So the parent is always in control. Child is expected to do what they say. So that's authoritarian parenting. Permissive parenting is where parents kind of expect too little of their children. There's very little discipline, very little boundaries, very little limits. Either they're permissive because they love their child so much that they don't want to upset them, they don't want to make them cry, or they're permissive because they're a bit negligent, that they can't kind of be bothered to discipline. So their expectations of a child's capabilities, neurological capabilities, are all over the place. Mostly they expect too little. And children have way too much control, particularly in times when it's not safe or inappropriate. The child will still have control. Again, because the parent either just doesn't care or because the parent just doesn't want to clip their child's rings or rein in the control because they care about them so much. So these people are very often very, very caring and very loving. And I think a lot of people who think they're practicing gentle parenting actually are quite permissive. They tend to under-discipline and under-control just because they're scared of upsetting their child. Then you have the sweet spot in the middle, authoritative parenting. Now, authoritative parents have age-appropriate expectations of their children. They know what to expect at any given age. They have a great connection with them. They earn respect because they respect their children. There's a good degree of discipline. There's a dance of control. So when it's appropriate, parents take control. When it's appropriate that they can give some control, the child has some control. But there's always a real balance, and it's always done really mindfully. There's lots of boundaries, there's lots of rules. They're just put in place with love and compassion and respect, for sort of mutual respect on both sides. So this is all gentle parenting is. It's just authoritative parenting. It's another name for it. I find the biggest problem with using the term authoritative is people get it very confused with authoritarian. They seem to forget that there are two different types, and they're very, very different. And they hear the word authoritative and their mind thinks authoritarian. It's also a bit of a mouthful to say and quite hard to spell. So hence I prefer to use the term gentle. But gentle parenting is just authoritative parenting. which means if you're looking for research to support gentle parenting, you probably won't find it using that terminology if you go on PubMed or Google Scholar, for instance. But use the word authoritative parenting and you will find hundreds, if not thousands, because what the research tells us is authoritative, aka gentle parenting, is by far the most effective parenting style there is. I hope that made sense and helped a little to demystify what gentle parenting is and, importantly, isn't. Thanks. Bye.